What's up, everybody? Thanks as always for supporting the show. It would mean a lot to me if you would take a second to scroll down and hit that subscribe button to the Hoops Tonight YouTube channel, and then follow me on social media on TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter so you guys don't miss any of our content over the course of this season. All right, let's talk some basketball.
Let me start with a trade deadline. A lot of times there can be sort of overhyped trade suggestions. I have not seen any irresponsible reporting by NBA guys. I don't think there's a ton out there. I think DeJounte Murray would make the Lakers better. I don't think he's a game changer. So your thought on what is a pretty quiet trade deadline?
Well, it's interesting because I think the play-in tournament has made it so that more teams than ever are more willing to think within the scope of the current season, which has diminished the number of sellers. And yet there are so many teams that feel close, which has increased the number of buyers. But the problem is the majority of those buyers don't have much to offer. Like the Milwaukee Bucks and the Phoenix Suns would love to have a perimeter defense upgrade, but they don't have any first-round picks to offer, which severely limits their ability to go out and get somebody. The Lakers would love to go out and get an athletic guard, but they have some limitations in that they basically have this one draft pick to offer, and chances are you can't get a really great transformative player for that type of talent. And so in a weird way, even though there are a lot of teams that would like to make a trade, there just aren't that many trades to be made. And so I think that will kind of limit what we see over the course of the next couple of days. Of course, you never know. We'll see what happens before the deadline if desperation kicks in and some stuff starts flying around. But I have a feeling that we're poised for a relatively quiet deadline.
So you follow the entire league. Let's start with the Lakers because that's always been a primary asset of your NBA knowledge. I've kind of rolled my eyes at any suggestion to trade LeBron, mostly because the 5 previous years before him, they had the lowest winning percentage in the league, and he saved the franchise. Ticket sales, merch, intelligence, he's still an elite scorer and distributor. I'm not giving up LeBron for 19-year-olds that may or may not hit and be players. Here's what I view the Lakers as, and you can tear this apart. I view this team as an elite scorer and distributor, LeBron, the best defender in the league in Anthony Davis, an excellent third wheel, sometimes inconsistent, but a good scorer in Austin Reeves, excellent length. That's why they can match up with a Denver. They have excellent length. Could use another shooter. I would love to see him give up a little length to get a shooter, DeJounte Murray. Then I think they would be in the discussion as the third best team in the league. They're not Boston, though the Celtics have no bench, and they just beat them. And they're not Denver. If Jokic, Anthony Davis does about as good a job as you can on him, and he's going to give you 28, 8, and 8 or whatever. But I think the move is a tweak, and I don't think I'm selling the future when I don't know, because of the way the NFL draft works, I get 23-year-olds. In the NBA, I get 19-year-olds. Who knows what they become? I have a much greater sense of a first-round NFL pick than a first-round NBA pick. So my take is, if you could get a shooter, give up a tad length, I think you're arguably capable of beating a Milwaukee, a Phoenix. Is that a fair kind of view of the Lakers?
The Lakers have had such a weird season, but it makes a little bit more sense when you kind of split it into thirds. So they come out the gates and they're actually pretty solid. In spite of the fact that D'Angelo Russell and Austin Reeves are both struggling, they started 15-9, capped off with winning the in-season tournament, right? Then immediately after that, which was somewhat, our mutual friend Logan Swaim, I was texting him at the time. I was like, I hope they don't just completely fall apart after winning this thing. They go 3-10 over their next 13 games with some bad losses. They lost to a Spurs team that hadn't won in like a month. They lost to the Bulls. They lost to the Grizzlies. They basically let go of the rope, and it does a ton of damage to them in the standings. Well, they kind of circle the wagons and they get their feet back underneath them, and they're 10-6 in their last 16 games with some impressive wins. They beat the Clippers. They beat the Thunder. They beat the Celtics. They beat the Knicks. They beat the Mavs. They beat the Warriors. So I think, more or less, I'm kind of exactly where I was with this team before the season, which is they're really damn good, but they're not as good as Denver. They're not as good as Boston. And so I think the silver lining and the reason why I would invest in this group is you and I talked about how LeBron and AD in a lot of ways needed to get better, especially on the offensive end, for them to be able to hang with Denver. A LeBron James jump shot last year was worth 0.9 points. A LeBron James jump shot this year is worth 1.06 points. That's an 18% improvement. You've seen that when you watch the games. He's executing the Golden State Warriors with pull-up jump shots at the end of games. He just was completely incapable of doing that last year. He had a bizarre shooting slump in last year's season. And then Anthony Davis is having the best post-up season of his career.
Yes.
He's reading double teams better than ever. And so to me, he's been so good. And so to me, like you mentioned that core three, Austin, LeBron, and AD. The biggest question mark for the Lakers is the two guys in between. D'Angelo Russell brings a lot of offensive firepower to the table, but you can't play him next to Austin Reeves against good teams. You're not athletic enough in the backcourt. Taurean Prince has been Darvin Ham's favorite player all season long. He is a bench player. Here's a crazy stat for you. He has started twice as many games this year as he did in the previous 3 seasons combined. So he's miscast as a starter on this particular team, although they just recently moved him to the bench. Your opinion there, that bench length, they have all these guys like Rui Hachimura and Jared Vanderbilt who are really good, but they can't really play on the perimeter on both ends of the floor the way they need. And so, bringing in someone like a DeJounte Murray, another guy that they wanted last summer that they didn't get, who I know they're looking for again this year, is like a Bruce Brown, or even like a smaller move on the margins with a team like Brooklyn for something like Royce O'Neal and Dorian Finney-Smith. Getting quality NBA starters at the 2 and 3 will give them their best puncher's chance. But at the end of the day, Colin, like, is Denver just better than everybody? Because that, I think, is what's causing a lot of the reticence here, is whether or not they can even beat them. Looking for a super offer for Super Bowl 58? Well, DraftKings has you covered. New customers can bet on the big game and turn $5 into $200 instantly in bonus bets. The line right now is at San Francisco minus 1.5, but you can bet all sorts of things on the game, even the coin toss, although big shock, it's going to be 50-50 odds there. My brothers and I always place a bunch of bets on the Super Bowl every year. I'm not actually sure what I'm going to do yet, but I'm excited. It should be a great game. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use code HOOPS, that's HOOPS. New customers can bet $5 to get $200 instantly in bonus bets. Only on DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of Super Bowl 58 with code HOOPS. Again, that's HOOPS. The crown is yours.
I talked about this on the Herd today. If you look at the history of the NBA, teams have been very even. Those Utah-Chicago series, very even. What was the difference? Michael hitting key shots. Spurs dynasty was largely Duncan hitting key shots. Shaq and Kobe beat the Blazers in Game 7 on a series of great shots late. Lakers, I would argue, were outplayed for much of that series, trailed in several games. So if you look at the history of the NBA, the best player wins. It's not always the best bench. Denver's bench is average. It's not always the best support system. Michael Porter in the finals, he's been such a hit and miss, up and down player. Jokic just makes big baskets late. And so I don't think the Lakers are worse than Denver and Boston for any other reason than the best player on the floor. So Boston, I'm going to transition to them in a second. I still have my misgivings about Boston because I don't love their best player as much as I love Denver's or the Lakers or Milwaukee's. But I tend to think the Lakers are the third best team because Jokic is the world's best player. And I do think that a Celtics starting 5 is really, really good and usually good at home.